Welcome back, everybody, to Battle of the Best. Our fourth place match between Hyped and Numberguy is coming up right on stream. Hyped, lots of momentum on his side. He's been doing very well today. Yesterday wasn't his day, but today he's been on fire with his Druid deck and being able to do it as well with Hunter. So Numberguy will have a handful on his plate. I wonder how he's going to tackle this Druid deck specifically. Most likely, Hunter Guy might ban out whatever he feels like is comfortable. I'm not sure if Druid's worthy of the ban, though, yet. Admirable, you were saying that you felt like if an opponent's uncomfortable with that deck, you were suggesting Lothar to perhaps ban it the previous series. What do you think about now? Does Numberguy need to take that Druid deck out, or is there another deck that's higher on the priority list?
It kind of depends on how he feels his matchup's going to line up against it. You know, again, if he feels like there's a few tricks up his sleeve, or he's not comfortable playing against it just because he doesn't understand, like maybe he doesn't know exactly what he should be mulliganing for and those sorts of things, that's a good time to ban a deck like this. And, you know, this is where a lot of people actually, they don't like ban formats, is because if someone comes out with something new like this and you don't know what you're doing against it, they should be rewarded for their innovation and their understanding, all the practice they put into it, and not just be able to ban it. But Numberguy looks like he's pretty confident against it, and I still can't blame him for banning Hunter. You know, his lineup looks like it's built to kind of ban decks this way, but you know, we haven't seen him do it the whole tournament. But in this lineup, it looks to me like he's just very confident if he can pick Hunter out of the way and use Handlock to try to swipe away the Druid instead.
Yeah, I think that makes the most sense to me. Taking out the Shaman, you know, Hype is just seems to be taking out very specific decks based off evaluation, and plus, that Shaman deck has been overperforming in whatever tournaments I've been seeing it, right? Like, again, Shaman proving to be really good for Numberguy. Savitz went on an absolute tear with it. Chalky almost qualifying, going very far with the Americas qualifiers with that deck. And I think it's just been surprising people to the point where people are running Harrison Jones in everything. It doesn't matter what deck it is. It could be Zoo. I've yet to see Harrison Jones. Oh, no, we saw Ooze and Zoo, right? That's right. Even some people are respecting it that much that they're putting weapon removal in decks that don't even make sense half the time. But it does make sense in the current meta game.
Yeah, everything is going to be shifting to your meta, so yep. I mean, the weapon destruction makes a lot of sense right now. You know, Warrior, this has been the talk of the tournament for me. It's just been so powerful, and it's been in almost every single person's lineup.
Uh-oh.
Did we lose our feed?
I think we may have. I got gray screen, no space just now. All right, so I think we're gonna try to get the stream back online. It's just our feed. I think we're still online as the cast. I think we're getting feeds. We're getting feeds from players directly until we get spectator mode, which, according to rumors and speculation, spectator mode will most likely be coming post BlizzCon, which should be exciting.
Post BlizzCon, no! I wanted BlizzCon so bad. Blizzard.
Oh, I'm sure BlizzCon will be. I'm sure BlizzCon will be like an experimentation where like maybe they'll introduce it. I mean, they're so close to it, right?
That's a good spot to experiment with things that could possibly crash and you know, result in game disconnects where people are playing for $250,000. That's a really good spot to run a trial version. So
I think so.
I imagine they ran a trial version there. They would be very confident in their trial version or their ability to like recover game states and things of that nature. I would love to see a replay system in this game. That's actually one of the things I want to happen the most, is the ability to like kind of fast forward and go back play by play and see what happens, so you can kind of scan over your games. Rewatch over things and like, you know, play the certain scenario over and over again and kind of see what you would have done and you know, what you could have done to play better or maybe trick your opponent into making a mistake or something like that. Anyways, so we're back from the gray screen, and I don't really know how either of these players are going to lead. Hyped, I would imagine, is going to lead Druid because that's sort of been you know, his plan throughout the entire tournament. It seems like he's been leading this Druid deck a lot, and I think he's taking advantage of the fact that his opponents are going to be so unfamiliar with it that he feels like he's developed an edge from that. I know if I was playing against him, I probably would be banning this Druid deck, again, just because of no practice against it. But if you feel confident, it makes a lot of sense to not ban it. So,
yeah, I wonder how good his Druid deck's against Handlock, though. I don't know if he's running BGH, but he does have multiple silences, so even if he uses like Keeper of the Grove, you know, he's got other ways to activate his Watchers, so you have to be very careful about it. And if he uses it on your Twilight Drakes, of course, that just allows him to snowball the board. So I don't know exactly how this Druid deck fares, but if it's disadvantage, I feel like Numberguy is in a great spot with Handlock throughout the series, right? Because then against Rogue and Warrior, it can be in a great spot because you can grind it out. And then against Druid, if you just go by conventional logic where Druid can't answer big threats, then Handlock's in a really good spot. So I feel like Numberguy with this Warlock deck has the nod, but of course, you know, we've seen some really funky games in the past where unfavorable matchups still end up being okay. Freeze Mage versus Warrior, or even Shaman against Priest sometimes.
Still, that's still been the best game for me so far this tournament.
Sure.
The Freeze Mage versus Warrior. Also, something else to note for you guys who are just joining us, and maybe you haven't been following the tournament format too closely. This isn't exactly like the best of fives that we've had in the past. This is 4-deck best of 5. Each player gets to ban one of their opponent's decks. But in this one, the winner can actually opt to change their deck. So even if let's say Hyped leads with Druid here and he wins a Druid, he can tuck his Druid away and play one of his other 2 classes. Same thing on Numberguy's side. If he wins a game with, say, like Hunter, he can opt to play one of his other classes that hasn't been locked so far going into the next game. We've seen that utilized a lot this tournament and to some really great effect. It's like players, it adds another layer where you can build a lineup that tries to snowball your opponent instead of trying to just win your first game and then maybe counterpick a couple of times. So here's Hyped straight away, leading with Druid again, and I would guess that with his Shaman pick, that Numberguy's trying to be a little bit careful, but I think part of what influenced his decision to lead with Shaman is the fact that Hyped has been leading with Druid so much. So if he's leading with Shaman here, I would imagine he thinks it's a pretty comfortable matchup for him.
It makes sense, too, granted that traditionally Shaman can give Druid a hard time on the board. We saw a great start in the previous series, right? Was it Lothar, or was it Lothar, or was it Hit Girl that had a really good Shaman start, and yet we saw Hype be able to fight back from it? I want to see it was Hit Girl.
Yeah, it was Hit Girl. Hit Girl had a pretty dominant board position, and Hype able to put back. He drew 3 consecutive cards that were really pressing his board advantage, and then finished off with his third draw on Savage Roar with a Force Nature in his hand, and had just enough damage to kind of kill his opponent after that. Which is, that's the way Druid works. It has a very high draw density later in the game. If you can kind of get to any stabilized point, the expectation for Druid is that your draws will be more powerful on average than your opponent's draws, and that's how you actually try to win the game.
Fair enough. The Zombie Chow gets immediately answered by Rockbiter, so I guess that's one less bursty card, but you have to take out that Zombie Chow. It challenges too much of your board. And look at this. 2 turns of Hyped not being able to do anything whatsoever. This gives a very comfortable spot for Numberguy, because now he doesn't have to worry about this. If this Unbound Elemental gets answered by a swipe, at least you're able to build something else. And now other cards like Defender or Azure Drake can come down safer.
Yeah, his draw is less than stellar at the moment. His first play is on turn 4 outside the Zombie Chow.
So from here, I think, assuming my screen's not frozen, Numberguy pretty much has a very clear play of just dropping Thanos.
Yeah,
or even toteming up. Like, there's not really much to do other than that.
I really like dropping Thanos here, because your opponent's kind of indicated that he doesn't have like a 3-drop to you, and if he doesn't have a 3-drop or a 2-drop, it's very likely he has a 4-drop. So he's forced with the decision of whether or not he wants to hero power or whether or not he wants to actually play a 4-power minion. So he gets pretty lucky and makes a spell power totem. So this is going to allow him to actually just drop Thanos and answer this straight away, and it's going to put his opponent in a very similar position where, do I kill this Blood Mage Thanos, or do I continue to develop the board? And I can tell you that Hyped is almost certainly going to be developing the board, but this Unbound Elemental quickly going to be getting a little bit out of control. And take a look at Numberguy's hand. This is one of the reasons he kept Hex in his opening hand, is he's looking to develop a board position. If the Druid stumbles a little bit, the Hex can really run away with the game.
Well, Hyped has Spectral Knight, and he also has Lotheb. Both those cards do have its merit, because the Lotheb shuts down an opportunity to use that Hex, like you said, and be able to push through. But then the Spectral Knight is also resilient to Hex. He has to use Flame Tongue totems, etc. to push through. So this Lotheb is hopefully going to trade for the board. But what a great draw for Numberguy.
I think that might have been the best draw in his deck.
He can use his Thanos and his totem.
Yep.
Kill it
so
off.
now he trades away the spell power that he's already gotten value from, picks up an extra card, gets the investment from his spell power totem, 5 points across to the face, and Hyped is sitting in a position where anything he drops is going to be threatened by this board. Gosh, this is going to be a tough turn. If he doesn't draw Wrath, I think he's going to fall really far behind.
Nope, he gets Ancient of
Second
Lore
Ancient
instead.
of Lore. Gosh, I don't know what you do here. This is one of those spots where it feels really gross, and I think you just have to like put stuff on the board and hope it lives.
So the Spectral Knight comes down then?
That's what it feels like to me. Alternatively, he could play Wailing Soul and just hero power the 3/1. And the purpose of that is going to be the Unbound Elemental, of course, is going to take it away straight. But you're trying to get to a point where you can get a lot of value out of swipe from that point. He may just swipe straight away here, too. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
If
you
drop the Wailing Soul...
5 power.
If you drop the Wailing Soul, though, it's still going to have 2 life. And then if it rolls Healing Totem or Defender of Argus, it's going to put it even more out of range. I feel like it's a little too optimistic to drop Wailing Soul.
It definitely could be.
Other plays.
It definitely could be. But this is the position he's got himself in now. He doesn't have a good play, so he has to figure out which is the least bad of his plays and also allows him the most recovery.
Least bad.
Yeah, it's not the spot you want to be in when you're playing Hearthstone. You never want to have to make the least bad play. This is also something I was thinking about, but I don't know exactly how good this is. So he uses swipe on the Unbound Elemental and uses hero power. So he pays a few more points of life. Flame Tongue is on the board still, but it keeps him from taking repetitive damage from that Unbound Elemental, and also keeps it from getting out of control. Because say like Feral Spirit got drawn, or Feral Spirit was a follow up to this, there's that Unbound Elemental is never leaving the table after that. So a pretty defensive play, but this is just what you got to do. You have to hope that your opponent doesn't do something that really leverages the board position in their favor. Turn 6 Azure Drake is about the least jam it down thing you can do. Floats a mana, and it's just a 4/4 that draws a card. Looks to me like he wants to play Defender of Argus, though. If he hero powers, I'd be very surprised if he didn't Defender of Argus as well.
I think this is a pretty comfortable play. Your Azure Drake also gives you, like you said, it floats some mana, and that's going to be really important, especially considering that the Azure Drake, as much as it draws you a card and it's a body, this also is really strong.
Yep.
Ooh, Black Knight comes down, though. We forgot about that
really
card.
Big break here from Hyped. He also picks up Zombie Chow, so he's got a little bit more stuff that's going on the board, so this may have been exactly what he needs to recover. Doomhammer is a lot of damage right now.
But does he sense a Harrison Jones, which he knows by now Hype's running?
Yeah, we've seen Harrison Jones in Hype's deck already, so I mean that's certainly looming in the back of his mind. This is something I talked about earlier too. These players have seen so many Harrison Jones and Acidic Swampoos and things like that. They're trying to avoid big swing turns from happening. So when he totems, I don't know if it's indicative of anything yet. To me, it looks like if he totems, he's not going to be playing Azure Drake.
He gets a spell-powered totem. Oh my goodness.
Back to back of those. This is Urshock to finishes that. Keeps pressing his advantage. So not a huge amount of damage coming to Hype's face, but he is down to 13, so he does have to be thinking about how his life total is going to be affecting things. So if he plays Ancient Allure, that's a pretty interesting draw. That may come in handy this game, actually. His hand's been so heavy that he may feel okay just like healing for 5 and trying to recover the board state. He does have another Ancient Allure, so it's not like he's losing all of his potential to keep drawing cards.
He's going to draw cards instead.
Yeah, I don't mind drawing cards. I think drawing cards is fine. He actually picks up a Sunfury Protector. And so the debate here is if he wants to use Sunfury Protector now or if he wants to try to taunt up his Spectral Knight as well. So it's like 2 very different plans. Like right now he can start to stem damage, or he can wait and try to fortify his position even more. I think I'd like to see him wait. I think the risk is worth it. Like you're so far behind at this point that like say you taunted this up and it got either Urshocked or Hexed. You're going to lose pretty much all your ground. Then you have almost no chance of recovery. But in this position, Hex is... Yeah, like Hex comes down here. But now the Manatide Totem's drawn, and it's just more problems that Hype has to worry about.
It's a pretty strong amount of pressure, and of course the looming threat of just being finished with burst from the hand. He knows that this kind of deck exists. Harrison Jones comes in the hand, but once again, I don't know if he'll play a role. Like, will Harrison be able to come out in time to make a game-changing impact, or will Numberguy just draw into the lethal damage?
So this spot, if he deals 2 damage to this totem right here, he really intends to try to fight for the board really heavily. He's going to sacrifice some card advantage to do it and try to make it up later. The Harrison Jones really influenced the way he chooses to try to play for card advantage too.
think it's fine. You have 11 mana, so you can taunt up Spectral Knight and Keeper of the Grove.
Yep.
I don't think people are running Black Knight as often in Shaman. I've seen it a couple times, even in recent memory, but it's still one of those niche scenarios where you have to you don't really play around it whatsoever.
Yep. Wow, really good position from Hype now. Again, a couple of back-to-back draws really able to put him back in this game. So Numberguy is going to pick up a second card from this Mana Tide Totem, but I don't think he can actually turn this board around this turn.
Not this turn, but he already uses Lightning Storm too.
Yep.
That's too bad.
This is exactly great. Yeah, this is exactly the kind of turn that Hype need too. He creates tension on the board, so that way if he's going into a turn with good initiative, he's really able to take advantage of this. I would be shocked if this Unbound didn't hit the board. And so he's going to pick up a second card with Mana Tide, a second Doomhammer.
Lots of dead draw.
Does Hype draw a second Harrison Jones?
Maybe a news. All right.
Oh, wow. Innervate's really important too. It's going to allow him to play even another minion if he draws one. Wailing Soul not looking so good here because he's already got Spectral on the board. Picks up a Keeper of the Grove too. Oh my gosh, this game is about to get really crazy.
But he needs to not die. There's a Fire Elemental which can push through.
Yep.
Second Spectral Knight on the board, though, is pretty tempting.
So he's still in a similar spot where he may feel like he needs to sacrifice more cards and actually kill the Unbound Elemental instead of killing the Mana Tide Totem, which I can't say I disagree with. Like I feel like I just want to pull stuff off the board because the Fire Elemental's challenging the Spectral Knight directly. So you can like put Sun Fury into the 2/1, put your Spectral Knight into the 2/4. You leave your opponent with some totems that they can potentially get value from, but if you recover from that turn, then I think you're in great shape.
But at the same time, he doesn't have like combo pieces, and he's already used both Ancients. He's getting pretty far into his deck. I agree, though. I think if he can survive this portion, he is sitting in a good spot.
Oh gosh, that's exactly what he's going to do. Is he going to silence or is he going to play the Spectral Knight? I think I would go with the Spectral Knight here. That's exactly what he's going to do. And so Hype is sacrificing a lot of cards to this Mana Tide Totem. There's a Rockbiter. Is that enough for lethal? It definitely is. Numberguy, huge draw off the top of his deck. He's going to take this first game. But wow, really well fought from Hype. I mean, Numberguy maximizing his damage potential, dropping the Mana Tide draw was very, very, very much on time. It allowed him to continue to pick up card after card after card. Just in time to pick up the Rockbiter weapon too and push for lethal. And that's exactly what he's trying to do. But Hype, I think he made the right play at pretty much every step of the game. I mean, he fell behind, so far behind early because he didn't have a play until turn 4. And then even his turn 4 play was just Wailing Soul. So he had worse Chillwind Yeti. And it's like he managed to recover it anyway. That's what he needed to do. He sacrificed card advantage, try to make it up later from efficient minion attacks, and go from there. But just too much life lost at the end to be able to pick it up.
Yeah, and if the game was able to extend a little bit longer, though, I still feel like there's a good position for Numberguy to close it out because there's still a lot of options there for Numberguy to be able to push in for damage. Hype didn't have combo pieces at all, so there's no guarantee of drawing it. He still had Ancient Watchers left to draw, so he could have been hitting dead 2 turns in a row. So even though Hype did as good as a job as he could to pull himself out, I feel like Numberguy was just putting way too much pressure. Now he takes a very important game number 1. Although, evaluating how everything else looks, I feel like his Druid deck was the weakest out of the 3 to tack on everything, right? Miracle Rogue can really abuse Druid unless they get like an early Spectral Knight to do work for them. And then, against Hunter, Hunter can almost beat anything else versus your Warrior and your Rogue feels like a little bit better at killing out this Hunter deck.
I definitely think so. But I don't know. I feel like the Druid deck's pretty well equipped to beat Hunter. That's just me. I think when you have the 4 Taunt Givers, plus the Ancient Watchers, plus Spectral Knights, they're having to invest so much into killing your board that, again, they've lost Buzzard and Leash potential. So, and there's way less Leroys than you saw before, too. So their push potentials, it's much more leveraged on having early minions and going from there. And Hype actually he even has Zombie Chows in his deck, so he's going to be fighting with Zombie Chows and Wraths and then scaling into taunting his minions in mid-game instead of, turn 7, turn 8. I think it's actually pretty advantageous versus Hunter. That's just me.
Okay. Well, then he won't have available to him anymore.
Yep.
And instead he's got to turn to another deck. If Numberguy chooses to stay on Shaman, I have to imagine Hype will turn to his Miracle Rogue. But if Numberguy switches, perhaps Hype will choose his Warrior instead. So I'm pretty sure that's how it'll go down for the rest of the series. But these guys have surprised us in the past with some of their choices, and that's the whole point of the format. The format is supposed to give winners more choices as to how they feel like the series should progress based off of their advantage of having a 1-0 lead. And if Numberguy wins this, he's going to go on to play D2, and then we have Forsen, D2, and Numberguy as our top 3, which is, I'm not sure if I'd be picking those guys when you have Hyped, Strife Pro, and RDU also in the same bracket.
Yeah, but at the same time, those guys are 2 BlizzCon qualifiers, so in terms of sanction rankings, those guys are considered to be 2 of the top 16 players in the world right now.
Well, strictly in terms of BlizzCon finalists to non-BlizzCon finalists ratio, it's pretty good so far for the tournament. These guys justifying their spots. In the meantime, Hyped, not going to be on coin. Numberguy starts off with lots of burst damage in the hand, as well as consistent damage over time. So we'll see how this pans out. I think he wanted a little bit quicker start. Like Haunted Creeper would have been good to pick up early on. Even Flame Tongue Totems are good to pressure Miracle Rogue. Or even talking about like reverse pressure too, like in implicit ways. Mana Tide Totem's not that bad against Miracle Rogue either.
Yeah, I agree with you. I would be curious if I'm okay with coining out Unbound Elemental here. I guess you don't want to do that because of the backstab SI7 potential.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh,
which
is
is
he draws SI7 agent?
Yep. Yes, sir.
This is something I've seen a lot too. Players choosing to shiv instead of choosing to use the dagger.
Yeah.
That's the second time we've seen that happen.
You like that? Cycling through your deck and
keeping
the weapon? I mean, you would do the same thing too, just weapon up right after, but...
Sure. I think at this point it's probably worth cycling because he doesn't have Auctioneer. And he does have a Conceal in his hand, so as soon as he picks up Auctioneer, he's got a really strong turn. And speaking of really strong turns, this is exactly what Numberguy was trying to avoid, but, sometimes your hand will not allow you that option. Hype continuing to be very patient with his dagger. This is something that we've seen a lot, too. Holding on to the dagger instead of getting, a couple extra points of damage. So it's a matter of how relevant is that. And I think with this build, getting the consistent damage from the dagger is a little bit less relevant because he's relying on more minion damage to get the job done instead of stuff like Sinister Strike, big Leroy combos and that sort of thing.
A little bit lag on my screen, but I was wondering if Numberguy feel like it's worth coining out a Lightning Bolt on this SI7 agent. If so, it does hold his mana to 4 next turn. But I guess that does give him a couple of options still, even though it's inconvenient for if he picks up Azure Drake or he can use his Doomhammer.
Yep, I'm in the same position. We're getting a little swirly loading screen. This is like playing Hearthstone on PlayStation.
Oh, man.
Loading next draw.
Oh.
And so we fast forward really quick, but we've seen Azure Drake into what looked like Spell Power, Earth Shock, Gnomish Inventor to clear that Azure Drake. Right. And of course, Auctioneer's been picked up, and he's going to backstab this Spell Power Totem. That's going to take away the potential for 1 Lightning Storm to kill it. Conceal's going to come out. Numberguy, I feel here, is going to be forced to use 2 Lightning Storms to take care of it.
He's also got Loatheb, though. Yeah,
he's going to be forced to either be using 2 Lightning Storms to take care of this Auctioneer or use a Loatheb. So, pretty rare that you see Shaman have options of how they want to deal with a concealed Auctioneer. I would venture to say that this is the best one. Hyped. It wouldn't surprise me actually to see a swipe right here. I'm sorry, a sap right here, and just draw an extra card, push for 4 more points of damage, and continue to try to make these Loatheb turns happen until he builds a big enough hand that he can kind of, get Violet Teacher on the board, make a bunch of tokens, and go from there. But building next draw.
That wouldn't be too bad. Is there an alternative? I don't think so. He's just got a pair of Farseers and a Violet Teacher.
Well, his alternative, of course, is just to play 2 minions.
Right.
And that's sort of the benefit of a deck like this, is that you can just, when your opponent plays Loatheb, you can just play more minions. So you do sacrifice Auction at position, but again, Numberguy has 2 Lightning Storms in his hand, so if you see Violet Teacher, get ready for some fireworks. That is a really big swing turn. Even though he's going to be overloaded for 4, he's clearing out 3 extremely important minions, denying his opponent draws, getting rid of tokens, potential, etc.
So the better play then is to sap and not to develop these creatures, even though
Well,
we
sure.
know otherwise.
Yeah, given what we know, of course. He's actually just going to attack that and then earthing. Okay, so he's attacking the Loatheb, so that way,
Sure.
If Loatheb wants to attack Auctioneer, it's going to end up dying to this. That was the purpose of the dagger attack there. He wants to use his next attack next turn, but again, 2 lightning storms. One of these
whether
things
or not it
roll
rolls
high.
high.
Yeah, on the Violet Teacher. The first one doesn't. Yeah, the second one though
Oh,
What?
man.
rolls low on both of them. So Loatheb is going to kill this Violet Teacher. And again, that extra dagger damage really mattering right now because this is going to allow him to just get away with 1 Phantom Knives instead of 2, or maybe even an SI7 agent that he drew, which I imagine it's going to be his play at this point. And then a pointed dagger is going to the face, so he's going to start using his dagger on face now because he's going to have plenty of mana to re-dagger if he needs to, and also he's got poison in his hand, so going from there. Overloaded for 4, so only 4 mana available now for Numberguy, and none of these plays are looking too good into this board. So this to me looks like Mana Tide Totem, just to get an extra card.
Right.
Or well, Lava Burst would be really weird to me. I mean, maybe he just does need to stem damage that bad.
He is at 25 health though, so I still feel like he's got some room to play. But you know, with no more lightning storms, these 3/3s are terrorizing whatever comes out. Everything that comes out gets threatened by it.
Yep. So he's going to Feral Spirit instead. If Spell Power gets drawn by Hyped, this could be potentially really bad news. I'm curious if he's going to use poison on one of these. Picks up Harrison Jones for a potential Doomhammer.
Right. Oh, we got spell power.
And then he gets the Blood Mage Thalnos. Wow, another really big draw. Hyped has what looks like all but run away with this game at this point because Numberguy really lacking the potential to answer this board. Doomhammer is one of his only options to actually put damage on the board. Second Feral Spirit, I think that might have been one of his better draws.
I think so, because
Really-
I mean, Doomhammer, he saw that Hyped is playing Harrison Jones, so that is a possibility. Not to mention that Doomhammer doesn't win you a race at the moment because you're only doing 4 damage per turn. He's at 30, and you're going to be taking 7, so this is your best way stopping damage. But if Hyped picks up Blade Flurry,
There's a
Blade
lot.
Flurry, that is bad news.
There's so much stuff that can happen here. Here, he'll certainly be daggering. Oh my gosh, he can even use Blood Mage to trade for the Unbound Elemental with that Cold Blood he just drew. So there's Poison. Earthmoon Farseer looks like it's going to bite Dust. I'm sorry, it's going to take 2 damage, making the Feral Spirit bite the Dust.
How much
Oh, is he
damage is
gonna
he at?
Oh wow, he's going to Cold Blood and go for face. And that tells me he's going to sap this Unbound Elemental.
Is he wondering if he should just play his hand?
I think he's wondering if he should draw a card with this Blood Mage or not.
Oh, fair enough. He already did use Lightning Storm, so Harrison Jones can't get easily wiped out by Spell Power and a Lightning Storm. Still, Lightning Bolt could, Lava Burst could, and that's about it. Harrison actually is a pretty reasonable threat, too. 5 damage when your opponent's at 11 health. It's pretty
he could just
strong.
sap. So he's not going to prep sap and then play Harrison Jones. I think Harrison Jones actually is not a bad play right here, just to get a 5-power minion on the board. But he has more than enough pressure out, and like you said, there's no Lightning Storms available, so even something like this Azure Drake can't draw a Lightning Storm, and suddenly Numberguy is in some pretty significant trouble. I actually think I really would have liked to see Harrison Jones the more I think about it.
Well,
You might be onto something.
Numberguy is doing everything he can to just survive. His opponent has 7 damage, just needs a little bit more juice. You can even toss away the Thalnos to potentially draw like an Eviscerate.
There's a Blade Flurry.
How much damage is that? It's 4. It's 8 damage.
8 damage. So I imagine at this point he's going to draw a card. Yeah, if he really wants to draw one now. There's a Deadly Poison too.
Oh,
That's going to be enough damage to finish off Numberguy.
Wow.
Hype's going to take game 2 and even this series. Very well played. Harrison Jones, and you know, it's been a big threat. It's just been a preventative measure at this point, though. There's been so many Harrison Jones, people just could never actually play weapons. I know, rightfully just so.
That fear.
That's the threat of that card. Yeah, so Numberguy, I think he played that game right, but in the end, it's just, you know, a very minion-heavy Miracle Rogue is going to take advantage of the fact that there are no Lightning Storms left in your opponent's deck. I'm really surprised that he chose to use the Cold Blood in the way he did, and then furthermore, when he chose to use the Cold Blood how he did, and just prep sap the, and then sap the 3/5. I think I really would have liked to see him prep sap and then just drop Harrison Jones as a 5-power minion. But it says no reasonable response.
Okay, fair enough. Excuse me, fair enough. And now from here, Hyped goes. He ties up the series. He has the option of going to the Warrior or staying on his Miracle Rogue. I'm trying to think of what he might be trying to go into the mindset of. The Miracle Rogue, if you stay on it, you have the option of going against his Rogue versus Hunter. And then Warrior has some pretty bad matchups against Rogue, generally speaking, unless unless Rogue draws poorly and then you're able to draw pretty well. And then, of course, you're decent against Hunter as well. So matchup's pretty close, honestly. Depends on how the Hunter starts and if you get Fiery War Axe. So overall, I think right now staying on Rogue is the more conservative choice for Hyped, because I think things can go really badly if he loses the Warrior and he doesn't have that option against Hunter.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with you as well. I think he should just stick with his momentum, keep playing Rogue. It's a class that he certainly is more familiar with than Warrior is. And I think at the end of the day, you would really try to want to match your Warrior into Hunter. So I like his I like staying with Rogue here.
Okay. And Numberguy's Rogue is pretty similar to Hype's. So it has Violet Teachers, it's got Cold Bloods, it's got no Shadow Steps. How does that stack in the Mirror matchup, Adam? Because I know you've played a lot of Miracle leading up to your preparation for tournaments.
Yeah, I've never played a version of Miracle without Shadow Steps. I've played against them before, and the one thing that I can say is that they're more consistent. They continue to apply pressure throughout the game, and then they still have the potential to have really big auctioneer turns, which is something that's really scary to think about. And I think it's just with the loss of Leroy, Arcane Golem wasn't cutting it, so people found more slots in their deck. And so not only that, but they got to kind of change the philosophy of it and how they choose to approach the game and sort of their attack plans. You know, a lot of double Cold Bloods, and Cold Blood is just being used again. It's like as repetitive damage, but also has the flexibility of, say, being put on like a token or a Blood Mage Thanos and pushing through a big taunt. Small things like that. So I don't have a lot of experience playing them yet, but looking to me like it's a pretty strong deck. And in the mirror match, I think that something like Auctioneer obviously is always going to be important, but I think something like Violet Teacher Control is probably more important at the end of the day.
All right, so Numberguy choosing to go with his Hunter deck, and the idea is if he can save his Miracle from being sniped by the mirror matchup, then he has his Rogue against Warrior. So Numberguy still has that competitive edge here in the series, and Hype doesn't have that Druid deck anymore to anchor him against the Hunter deck.
Yeah, again, I still think that this matchup is favored for Rogue at the end of the day. It's always going to be really close, in my opinion. You'll definitely dip low on life, but I think that your plan of attack will kill your opponent before your opponent kills you, because both of you guys are just kind of racing against each other. There's not a lot of direct interaction going on between the minions. Like Rogue has a lot more options to deal with stuff like that than Hunter does. Hunter just kind of, it doesn't have like a big refuel options, and it's not making a huge burst push at the end of the game, so it's relying on that repetitive damage, and I think that's why Rogue has the edge.
Well, does he go for more Death Rattle minions to complement the Undertaker? Or is he feeling like Eagle Hornbow is good enough to answer all the impending SI7 agents and Farseers?
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't mulligan Bow in this matchup, especially if you know your opponent's running 2 copies of each SI7 agent and Earthring Farseer, because you need something to stabilize that position. So Eagle Hornbow is going to function very similar to like Fiery War Axe, where you get it on the board and it buys you enough time to get the repetitive damage again out of the minions you need.
Sure.
SI7 agent straight into the hand.
Ooh. Hyped being a little cheeky, pretending like he wanted to backstab.
Wow. Yeah, that was really interesting. Is he trying to telegraph backstab that hard?
Perhaps.
If you had backstab there, wouldn't you just used it though? I feel like it tells
right?
your opponent that you definitely don't have backstab.
Maybe.
But then not using backstab also tells your opponent you definitely don't have backstab. All that does is tell your opponent that card targets something.
Sure, but there's just too many to name, right? Shiv, Viscerate,
Sure.
Cold Blood.
Even still, I don't feel like you would. You know, the more I think about it, the more it actually tells you that it is Cold Blood, because if you can't cast a spell, it won't let you drag it to something.
You can just cast Shiv or Viscerate. Or,
Well, he didn't have the mana for it, so he won't let him
Sap.
drag it out of his hand.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah, I think it just gives away that it's Cold Blood. His opponent really digs deep enough.
Well, I guess it gets their opponent thinking. Maybe that's what he wants. And he's going to go for half his hand dump to clear the board.
This guy's toast.
I actually like this play.
Don't mind this.
I like this play a lot. It's really aggressive, and you do burn your sap, but I mean, you do burn your preparation, but preparation's not like the most important card in this matchup. You just kind of need to get stuff rolling. So the fact that he's drawn a charge from Eco Hornbow, this gives him a little bit more information. It stunts his opponent's development. It buys him like the one turn he needs to get Violet Teacher on the board and not fall too far behind. I would really like to see him just dagger up here too. I don't want to see him burn Fan of Knives. I think Fan of Knives is pretty important to winning certain kinds of races in this matchup.
He's also testing for the trap if he goes for the dagger up, right? Just to see if it's explosive trap.
Yeah, that
on the
too.
off chance.
He can also test to see if it's explosive trap or not, which we know the Numberguy is running a copy of.
Right. Okay.
Oh,
I'm
he
not
chooses
testing
not
it
to test
now.
the trap too.
Well, testing it
can
now
just
versus
test
testing it later is the same thing.
Yeah. That's an interesting point to note too. Like, say he tests for explosive trap right now, he does just give his opponent 3 more damage straight away.
Yep.
So now he's going to be faced with whether or not he wants to Violet Teacher or Fan of Knives. Or maybe even Shiv and use his dagger.
Shiv dagger is more mana efficient, but he goes for Violet Teacher because it is another way to potentially remove creatures. He
You're
needs to
risking
get
a
board
bit.
presence.
This is another thing too, is actually if he had given his opponent a bow charge, he wouldn't be losing the bow to this. Hunter's Mark straight off the top though. That's a pretty important one. And if Numberguy had drawn like Stranglethorn Tiger or something like that off this web spinner, this game would be very quickly spiraling out of control. As it stands, he does have a chance to recover this, but Savannah Highmane is going to be putting a lot of pressure on his board.
Yeah, he needs to pick up Auctioneer very soon in order to have a fighting chance to be able to handle this Savannah Highmane. Because if you draw it to saps, you start doing damage, you start drawing cards, and then Hunter is just going to be drawing 1 card per turn. This is your opportunity as a Miracle Rogue to make a comeback, but you need the Auctioneer.
I'm curious how he's going to choose to try to play around this trap this game. So, if he finds out that this is
Snake Trap.
Snake Trap, he's in really good shape. So I'm guessing he's just not going to attack if he does this.
Yeah, force your opponent to choose whether or not he wants to use the bow or let the Farseer live.
Yep. I'd be stunned if Kill Command got used this turn. I think it's just going to be Savannah Highmane.
That'd be an amazing Farseer. He gains you, upwards up to 8 health. That's a healing touch.
Yeah. This is a really tough turn, I think, for Numberguy. Like, it looks really easy to just jam Savannah Highmane down here, but, you know, he is thinking about the potential of this Highmane is going to die, which somehow it is. And again, this is just going to be another spot where Snake Trap shows that how much of a liability it can be at certain times. Even picks up Blade Flurry. All right, so the question here is, does he want to pay 6 life or does he want to lose his Earthen Ring Farseer straight away, I think.
But does he know it's Snake Trap and not freezing?
No, he doesn't know that. That's another issue. So he's trying to figure out the best way to play around this. I think it's very often to pay 6 life, honestly.
So you attack first. You attack the Loot Hoarder first to see if it's Snake Trap with your weapon, but that's inefficient.
I don't know. I think he wants to know if it's Freezing Trap or not. I think that's what he's really afraid of. He's going to get some good news. It's Snake Trap instead. So I think that's a pretty big sigh of relief for him.
But it is a hefty price to pay.
Yep. He would much rather have used his Cold Blood, but again, he was so afraid of
freezing trap.
He was so afraid of freezing trap that I don't think he could afford to do so.
So he's got to pay the life.
Yep, no option. And then Blade Flare is going to be coming out. So this board's going to get swept. Numberguy's going to go up to 4 cards, but not a ton of action. But not a lot of life for Hyped either. This damage is going to add up really quickly.
Yep, not to mention he's just got another charge on the bow.
Yep. Ooh, and there's a Houndmaster.
Wow.
He may forego a hero power this turn.
Yeah, I don't see why not. You just play the 3 minions in your hand. It is still slightly vulnerable to other stuff, but he just used a Blade Flare with Deadly Poison.
Yep. I think that's the major thing is that he just used... Oh, is he just going to play Undertaker and pass? Maybe he's going to play this Houndmaster just by itself.
You still have Kill Command next turn with Ironbeak Owl and Hero Power, so that's 7. And then you have the bow, so you actually have 10 damage already. So just play your creatures and hopefully you can't do anything.
Okay, I didn't. I thought Hype was at 15 for some reason.
Well, he was.
No, I meant
was
like
the
after
beginning
the
of the
attack.
turn.
I meant after the attack. I thought he was at 15 for some reason.
Ooh, that is 1 turn too late. I don't think there's any way for Hype to pull himself out because there's 10 damage already existing just from the combination of the weapon plus the Kill Command.
Yeah, I don't see it either. He's gonna go for it, but there's no way out of it at this point.
So if we just rewind, the only way for Hype to have a visible chance of comeback was through cold-blooding and not taking the damage. But even then, he started drawing cards. You see that he had SI7 and Azure Drake, and the Rogue was not able to do much. Hyped is down to his last deck, and that is Warrior. Warrior against Rogue or Hunter here, and both have a chance to win. The Rogue, of course, is very strong against the Warrior passivity, but we'll see how Hype's deck does. His deck is really good against Hunter because it has cards like Hogger, but how does it fare against Rogue? I'm not sure. You don't see Miracle Rogue that commonly on ladder, which is primarily where this deck has been tested so far.
Yeah, it's died down in popularity on ladder, definitely a lot. I think Warrior needs to be a little bit more aggressive in this matchup than it used to be. It used to be able to just kind of sit back and armor up and, and eventually get to such a high life point that your opponent couldn't just burst you down. But again, these new Rogue breeds, they don't rely on Leroy combos. They rely on just repetitive damage. So you do have an opportunity to race them at some point because they don't have the giant just Leroy Shadow Step get ya turns. They're going to be happening a lot less frequently. Touching back on the last game, I think the only thing Hyped could have done was figuring out whether or not he could have won if that card was Freezing Trap at all. And I think that's really the big difference. Like, the more I think about it, the more I think he just doesn't ever win if it's Freezing Trap, so he may is supposed to Cold Blood there instead. But you'd have to review that situation a lot. I don't really know.
I'm thinking about it. I can't really further analyze the situation without looking at the board. Either way, I think if Hyped, like, Numberguy most likely will pick Hunter again because it's his Miracle Rogue is like the last line of defense, so to speak, and it's great versus the Warrior. And then the Warrior versus Hunter matchup is still winnable for Hunter. People feel like the Warrior's strengths really smack down the Hunter, but don't forget of like the great starts that the Hunter have, and the Warrior can just draw really poorly into its heaviest cards in the deck. In fact, I think that's what happened earlier, even today, where we saw like a Warrior just draw really poorly, but I can't remember who exactly.
Yeah, I mean, that definitely is going to happen time to time with Warrior. You know, if you don't have Fiery Wind Axe, it gets a lot harder. And if Hunter manages to drop his Savannah Highmane on turn 6, you go from there. So Numberguy is going to swap over to Hunter. And, you know, sticking to that consistent theme of you want your potential last game to be one that you think is favorable.
Oh, there's the axe.
There's Hogger as well. I don't think he's going to keep Hogger, though.
Nah.
Come on, keep the Hogger. Oh. We all want to see it.
Maybe.
Oh.
I mean, it is good, but it's still so far away. Like, how can you guarantee that you'll get value off it? Plus, getting other things like the Armor Smith might be more important.
Yeah, he picks up Sludge Belcher too, and we actually saw, was it Lothar that we saw keep Sludge Belcher in his opening hand? Someone kept Sludge
I
Belcher in
don't,
the
I
opening
don't
hand
think
against
Lothar was
matchup.
playing Warrior this tournament. Oh, look at
Who
that.
was it? Oh, there's Hogger. Welcome back.
Yep.
Fiery Wind Axe. This is going to be already a tough one for Numberguy. He does have 2 Animal Companions, which I think are 2 of the better cards in this matchup in his deck, but
Yeah,
no
so-
2-drop. He picks up a Web Spinner. Definitely going to try to get the second charge of that bow out here. I don't know if it's going to... I'm sorry, of the axe. I don't know if it's going to work. But yeah, we saw someone keep Sludge Belcher in their opening hand versus Warrior. Wow, he draws a cool Taskmaster. That's a really important draw right now because now he has a threat on an Animal Companion. And there's Savannah Highmane. This game is going to get really crazy.
He's got Highmane, but before that, Sludge Belcher will come down. And then you got Hogger. And Highmane has to go through the null every single turn.
I actually think I'd like to see him shield block straight away here. I think he needs a dig into his deck. Picks up a second Sludge Belcher. This looks like Druid Warrior almost. Just like a bunch of big, strong minions.
Yeah,
what is
for
it?
real. Okay.
Misha, definitely one of his better ones.
But if Hype draws removal of some kind, Shield Slam.
Oh, that's a really painful one. I don't think this is going to be happening. Seems like a lot of life to pay to kill a Misha.
Oh, man. Well, you're going to armor up. It's all about whether or not you feel like you can use his axe to take out the Misha. But that's asking for a lot.
Yeah, that's a multi-turn investment and also 12 points of damage. But is Misha going to deal more than 12 points of damage if you leave it there?
I mean, you're playing Sludge Belcher. If you play Sludge Belcher and he pushes through the first body, you still have the 1/2 Sludge to
I think
kill
he's gonna do
off. To kill off the body. So I think attacking here actually isn't that bad of an
He's
option
thinking about
here.
that same thing too. He's like, is this Misha going to deal more than 12 points of damage if I just leave it here? And I think the answer is yes. So, yeah, he's got a little bit of extra armor value, and his hand is so strong that if he can just weather a storm and not allow him to just not get overwhelmed, I think he's in a really good position to actually win this game.
Okay, Numberguy, what you gonna get with Animal Companion number 2?
Gets a
Misha
second
number
Misha.
2. That is troll-tastic.
And that Direwolf Alpha is going to threaten these Sludge Belchers straight away.
Oh man.
This is gonna be rough. What does he need to draw to help him get out of this situation? Sylvanas, I don't think is it. Is Sarah really clogging up his hand right now? And yeah, his plan's consistent. He's got to kill that Misha. So
That
again, he's
needs
gonna take some heavy
13
damage. And Savannah Highmane, gosh, it's so liable to seal the game here. I think there's a good chance that with that Undertaker draw, though, the Numberguy elects to go with a different play. But at the same time, he may fear committing too much to the board because of a card like Brawl.
Right. Either way, like if your opponent brawls with Highmane or other cards, it's gonna have a pretty strong impact. So I don't think there's a way to play around Brawl now.
Yeah. Well, the Highmane would be the way to play around Brawl. Like that's the one you want, and it just to me it looks like he's thinking about whether or not he wants to use Undertaker or Mad Scientist. I like keeping him
Highmane
here.
is so strong though.
Wow. He's going to forego Highmane this turn. I don't know if I agree with that, but I think this might have been exactly what Hype needed to get back in this game.
Well, it depends on what he's drawing. His hand's still not looking that stellar. Oh, he gets the Brawl. Whoa.
I don't think he can do anything but Brawl this turn.
Right.
Wow.
And I guess either the dog or the Mad Scientist survived the best case scenario.
You know what else is going to happen? Is this Mad Scientist may fetch a Snake Trap here. Gets
it's
explosive instead. Everything may be falling into place for Hype to recover this game.
But Explosive shuts down Hogger. You laugh, but that actually might come into play here.
It definitely might. I think a lot of these no tokens are going to be attacking minions instead, but until he gets control of the game. But
Hype has to kill his Undertaker, right? He's just really wondering about Snake Trap.
Yeah, that's what he's thinking about for sure, is Snake Trap. And I think he kind of sees the same thing that we do, is if he doesn't kill it, what is he going to do? So there's High Mob, and there's Leper Gnome.
Good news is he can still stall for a little bit of time. He's got Sludge Belcher. Got Sludge Belchers and ways to stall for a couple more turns, but he's looking at so much damage if his opponent has Iron Beak Owl. In fact,
Yeah. 13.
yeah, if he has Owl Kill Command, you're dead.
Yeah.
But you can't really worry about that.
Yeah, I don't know if you can get around that one. Oh, he's looking at Augur. I think Sludge Belcher is a little bit better here. Try to get the board stabilized. Like, maybe your opponent doesn't have another strong minion, they just have utility spells in their hand.
Yes.
And so Augur can actually stabilize the board. The other thing that's important is he kind of needs to draw like a utility spell. Hunter's Mark picked up. I don't know if that really changes anything. It's just Law of Highmane is going to come into effect. We'll see how much that changes things. Loot Hoarder's going to threaten the Augur token too. That's a lot of damage. Hype's down to just 10, and a hand stuffed full of big legendaries.
It's a very expensive hand. Wow.
Gosh, I don't know what you can draw really that's very good here. I mean, I guess like Cruel Taskmaster would be a really great draw, I think. Big Game Hunter's a really bad one, though.
Nope.
All right, well, I think he's got to
else.
play Augur. I think he's just got to play it. And honestly, I think he's got to hope that the Highmane attacks into the Augur.
I mean, it might. But
yeah, definitely
Numberguy is just on so many outs to just end the game. Why are we zooming in on the Augur?
Why not?
That's game.
And that's going to be enough damage to finish off Hype. Numberguy going to advance 3 games to 1. In our top 3 players, we have Forsen, someone who is often thought of by a lot of players to not be a tournament-winning kind of guy. But he's in the finals, in the grand finals already, and now Hypes gets taken down by Numberguy. 2 BlizzCon qualifiers in the top 3 of this event. And wowee, so much damage. Law of Highmane, I think it's just true. We've seen it happen every single time a Highmane has attacked a player's face this tournament. The player who attacked the face with Highmane is won.
It is true. I mean, it's also such a dominant card that if it attacks the face, there's usually a lot of other conditions that associate with it. 1, the Highmane's alive and well. 2, there's not really much that your opponent can do to stop it. And then 3, of course, Hunter has so much damage to follow it up that you're able to push in for the win.
Yep.
So I think Amaz was right. But of course, it wouldn't surprise me if it was his practice group that told him that, because they've been testing so much more often that they've already, like Firebat, all of them guys, they've been playing Hunter for so long that it feels like they would be able to come up with that conclusion as well. That's going to do it for our 4th place match, by the way, and we're going to go to the top 3 with D2 versus Numberguy coming up after the break. Don't go anywhere, guys. Stay tuned for more action here at BOTB.